Hi, welcome to Live on Platform Toronto, and we have Rima Berns-McGowan with us, MPB, and so delighted and overwhelmed to have you, Rima, with us today. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an incredible honor to be here, and I'm just absolutely delighted to be able to have this conversation with you.
Thank you so very much. In fact, as I was saying off the screen, that I'm so overwhelmed. As much as I have gone through what you are, what you have done. I mean, I find myself in no position to have a discussion with you regarding
Oh, no, no, on the contrary.
because
No, no.
for the viewers, at least I must say that I have somebody with me that who's got. When in a word, people say she's the best from both the worlds. She's an academician, she's a critic, she's a writer, she's a community leader. She has been through so many things, and above all, a person one should be looking up to. Thank you once again, Rima, to be with us.
Mashallah, I'm really honored. Thank you.
Thank
Salam alaikum, everybody. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. Great. The thing that we really, I mean, and first of all, I must also sympathize that you lost one of your dear ones, Elliot,
Yeah,
uh, the other Friday, was a lovely dog in the community.
very lovely dog, 12 and a half years old, an old soul. He had been a real member of he was a real member of our family, and so we're really, it's a huge loss. And for the past, all of our kids are grown,
Yeah.
and they're off doing their own thing. So for the past 3 months that we've all been on lockdown, it's been my husband and me and the two dogs, and we were our own little pack. And having lost one of the dogs is actually really hard. So yeah, I'm
I
still in
completely
mourning.
understand. But at least Kuma is with you, and
Kuma is with us.
I would request for an invitation from you to have a walk with Kuma sometime.
Anytime. Kuma would be thrilled. We can do a physically distant walk, so you can be three raccoons apart from
All right.
from me and Kuma, and it would be a delight and an honor to do that sometime.
Fantastic, Rima. Thank you so much. At times, I feel, asking this question, I don't know whether it's a bit personal or not. I mean, you had been in academics, right? You taught, diaspora, and, you have studied journalism, and you turned out to be a great community leader and a politician. Was it planned, or how did this thing happen?
Oh,
It's such a thing. It's so impressive that people say that don't hop your job too much, but it's not. It's more than hopping from one discipline to another. And believe you me, everywhere you excelled. Can you just tell me, if you don't mind, how did it all happen in your life?
you are so kind to ask. No, in my wildest dreams, I never imagined doing something like this, and I would have, in my mind, run away. When I was asked to do this, I looked at the person who asked me and said, "I'm an introvert. I know, like I'm not that person." It was actually students of mine who persuaded me to run. And the reason that they asked was they said, you have such a thoughtful way of understanding how systems work and how we need to fix Canadian systems so that they work for everybody. So won't you please take that voice out of the classroom and onto into the wider arena? And that was ultimately the reason that I agreed to run. And I thought, even if I spend 4 years just talking about what we need to do, changing the conversations on the systems that we have and how they need to be fixed so that they work for everybody, maybe that's not a bad way to spend 4 years. So that's how I ended up here. And I said to them, I've never organized to run. I don't know because I never planned this. So I didn't do all the steps that people do when they intend to go into politics.
Yeah.
And they said, "Don't you worry, we'll take care of that part." And they did. So here I am.
Yeah, you have been advocating systematic changes for such a long time, and I'm sure everything happens for a good reason, and that is why we have got such a good community leader like you, even though it was not ever planned in your life. Great. And we're grateful to the destiny, divine intervention, God, however you call it.
I definitely feel as though I have had guidance, and those that fingers between my shoulder blades pushing me on. Alhamdulillah. So here I am,
Great.
and trying to do my best.
Yeah, you're doing a great job, Rima. Thanks. Going back to this new normal thing, as we thought of, the whole pandemic, as we were talking, it happens once in a century, and no community, no country, no individual, no organization has ever had this experience of handling or going through such things, such changes. So, what do you think? What would be the major challenges? In terms of if you talk about a personal challenge, community, or overall a community, what would be the the challenges of this new normal to you?
Well, I think that there are so many challenges. I think that in the first place, everybody is afraid in some ways, and everybody is mourning something. So it's extremely difficult for everybody, but particularly for folks in the Bangladeshi community. Um, you know, many people in the community were working in jobs that have been shut down. So a lot of people have lost their income. Some people are essential workers, and that has had its own set of very serious challenges. So, if you're still working as an essential worker, but you need to be out in the community where you can't self isolate,
Right.
or if you lost your income, either way, you're in a really difficult set of circumstances, and many people in the community found themselves in that set of circumstances. So, on top of having to homeschool their kids, and maybe if they live in an apartment building, they can't easily get outside, all of those issues compound the concerns, the health concerns, and also the mental health concerns, the income concerns, the how do we keep a roof over our heads? Because certainly in places like Crescent Town, the landlords haven't always been understanding or kind. And so all of these things have taken a huge toll. And I do think also um, many members of the community who are here in Canada because of uh, political issues back home, um, I think dealt with crises back home that were one set of crises, and then now they're here and there's a different crisis happening. And so I think that um, there sometimes when we've been through a traumatic event, we tend to react to the next traumatic event the way we survived the first one. But it's a different kind of trauma. So, although people are traumatized again, it's a different kind of trauma that requires a different kind of response. And I think that that's really, really difficult for some folks to go through. So, for instance, early on, particularly, there were some folks in the community who didn't want to go outside for fear that that's where they would catch the virus, even going outside anywhere. And that's not necessarily because maybe, if you were in a former set of hostilities, that would be that would be the response that you'd make. But here, that wasn't necessarily the best thing to do because being trapped inside without access to the outdoors isn't great for anybody's mental health, particularly when everybody is stressed. So I think one of the things that I was able to do was, with the help of Imam Irshad Osman, address the community through the masjid after his weekly khutbah at Juma prayers, just to be able to say to people, really go outside. It's good for your health. Just be careful when you're there to stay away from folks that you're not living with. Make sure to keep 6 feet apart and that physical distancing piece. I think that the government's messaging wasn't always very straightforward or clear. And so I think for people to be working, and it wasn't translated into Bengali, so it was difficult for everybody to hear it. So we had to rely on word of mouth to get information out about how people should act and react. There were places where some folks were working that shouldn't have been work open. And people, factories that were not essential workers, and people were being forced to work because they didn't want to lose their jobs
Yeah.
without PPE and without physical distancing. So those kinds of things have been real stresses for the community. And I think that figuring out how, which is why I think a show like this is really important, because helping people to figure out how to manage these new challenges is so important.
Yeah, and as you rightly said, yeah, people often, ignore the mental factor, the mental wellness factor, because they are so engaged, engrossed with, the other things like, bring the bread and butter for the family. They kind of,
Exactly.
bypass the entire issue of mental well-being. So, from that perspective, as you rightly highlighted, what do you think? How we should be taking up this issue of mental well-being, mental wellness during this entire fiasco?
So exactly. So I think a couple of things. I think there's some things that everybody can do for themselves.
Yeah.
I think that it's very, very difficult, even when you live with the people that you love most in the world, even when you live with your family. If you're always on top of each other, it's very difficult. It's a stressful time. I talked about some of the stresses that people are dealing with earlier, but then on top of the fact that you're just on top of each other all the time and you never really get a break to be necessarily by yourself or so on. I think we all need to sort of be very aware of what those stresses are and then try to think through, do I need time to go for a walk by myself? Do I just need to go, with somebody and just walk a little bit, have some time to get outside, to go and get a little bit of exercise, whether or not you have a dog, just to go and get
Right.
out, get outside. And there are ways to do that, but I think that it's absolutely crucial. It's really crucial that everybody be able to sort of maybe take some time to meditate, take some time just to sit with your prayers or your meditation or whatever makes you feel easy, to exercise, to read a book if that's what's good for you, to just take time away from the news, which right now is horrible,
Yeah.
and do the kinds of things that make you feel grounded and just feel more able to cope on a daily basis. Certainly, I need to do that. It's absolutely crucial for me. I spend a lot of time supporting members of the community. Right at the beginning of this, I put out a call on social media and said, if you need a phone call, let me know. I will phone you. I will, help you brainstorm through your problem. I will help connect you to people who can help you. And I have been doing that every day. And it's hard work
Yeah.
because
No, yeah.
I'm sort of taking on people's problems and helping them. And I'm very privileged to be able to do it, but it's hard. If I didn't also take care of myself, I wouldn't be able to. And so I think that's true for each and every one of us, because no matter who you are and who you're supporting, it's hard,
True.
or how you're doing it, it's hard. So take some time for yourself. I also think that this is a piece that the government is really going to have to focus on, that all of our mental health has taken a huge hit, and that communities that are racialized, that are marginalized in many ways, have taken more of a hit than others, and many people in the Bangladeshi community are in that situation. And so there's going to have to be help for people. I know that right now, if you are a healthcare worker,
Right.
there are places you can go to get mental health supports, but we need it for everybody.
True.
And I think that is, I mean, there are obviously other pieces that have to also come in. We still don't have rent relief. We still don't have a plan. Right now, you can't evict anybody, but we don't have a plan for what's going to happen at the end of that period.
Right.
And, you know, God forbid that landlords begin to evict people because there's nowhere for them to go. Shelters, I mean, it would just be a nightmare for everybody. So, inshallah, landlords will work with people, but we need the government to step up to have a moratorium. So, no COVID evictions whatsoever, a ban on those, and also rent relief to help people. And I think those pieces are really crucial. Um, you know, the premier did say if you can only afford to eat and not pay your rent, then please eat. Like, you have to eat. But we are going to have to deal with the rent issue. That is a big question that is looming. Right after that is the mental health support piece. And I think that for the sake of everybody, uh, the government's going to have to step up and make sure that people can have access to mental health supports where they need it.
I'm sure the government will do that accordingly, and let's hope for the best. And of course, as you were actually saying, there is a social stigma, and that will take some time to fade away or go away. $1 million question. I know nobody has the right answer, but from your experience of community, of whatever you have done all across, what do you think? How long might it take for a community, for a person, for an organization to come out of this whole catastrophe? I mean, I know
I
it's
mean,
a difficult question, but then again, out of experience, what's your thought on that?
that is the $1 million question. If
Yeah,
I had a crystal ball,
yeah.
I'd be doing very well right now. I mean, I think the key issue is that this is not going to go away anytime soon. So we are in this until, because the virus is absolutely deadly.
Yeah.
You know, some people don't even know they have it. They're asymptomatic. That's the scary thing about it. Roughly, it seems 1/3 of people who contract the virus don't even know that they have it.
Yeah.
But it's not clear who it strikes really hard. It's more likely to strike hard if it's an older person. It's more likely to strike hard if there are certain underlying health conditions. But it's not clear. And it also has had devastating effects on young people who, as far as everybody knows, are perfectly healthy. So it's a terrible, terrible, terrible virus. And of course, when people live, a number of people in a very close space, when one person gets it, they can't self isolate, which greatly increases the chances of other people living in the space of getting it as well. And that's why the doctors at Michael Garron Hospital have noticed that in fact there's a higher prevalence of cases in places like Crescent Town and Thorncliffe Park than there are in neighborhoods where people can live more spread out. And that both has to do with the fact that lots of people are essential workers. So they're in spaces where they can contract it. They often have to take the TTC
Hmm.
to work, but then also they can't self-isolate when they get home. So we are facing a situation where the virus is around. It's devastating. We have to take it seriously. And we're looking at how long will it be before there's a vaccine?
Yeah.
How will it be a year? Will it be 18 months? So, we're in this for a while. So we have to figure out, we can't just put our heads in the sand and pretend it's going to go away. We actually have to figure out how we're going to live in this new normal for as long as it is the new normal. And so we have to take care of ourselves and our health, which means that physical distancing, the 6 feet apart from anybody that you're not living with, is a thing you have to take seriously. Wearing a mask, um, even a homemade mask, preferably with a pocket that you can stick a filter into, is really important. Making sure that you don't, touch your face. If you do feel sick, don't go out. Um, those kinds of, taking those kinds of precautions are really important. But also then taking care of, how, if this is what it is, how am I going to take care of my mental health? How am I going to survive the next year and a half?
Rima, it was so thoughtful of you. As I said, I've been. I'm sure me, along with the entire viewers who are watching us or will watch us later, will be so enlightened by the thoughts that you have and the areas that you have thrown lights on based on your experience. And I for sure know that I have learned a lot from you, and from starting from the community perspective to your personal experience and views on the entire situation. Thank you so much. It will never end, and I think I must have to do at least 100 more episodes of being live with you to know more and more things from you. I want to know how journalism life was there for you. I want to know how Christian life is going there with you. I want to know how you had been experiencing yourself as a teacher. So many things, so many thousand questions and issues that I have that I really want to discuss with you. But maybe it will take a couple more live sessions to, if you kindly agree. Of course, we will reach out to you to know more about these things. It's not for the, let me be selfish, if not for the community, but at least for people like us, we want to be inspired by people like you, to be very honest. Thank
You're so
you.
kind. Thank you so much. I would love to talk anytime. Thank you so much for having me. And inshallah, we'll speak again very soon.
Absolutely. Rima will reach out to you. And from this platform, we're also thinking about the kids. They have been suffering all this time, staying at home. So we are thinking to do something during this summer break. People do a lot of community work and the students get engaged,
Yeah.
especially little kids. So we are trying to come up with some sort of an online act, like, maybe a painting exhibition, painting thing, or whatever we can get themselves involved being online. And I'm sure we'll reach out to you for your support, at least to be with us, with your ideas, with your guidance, and with your kind message to inspire the entire initiative that we are planning to do. So
Anytime. Thank you so much.
thank you. Thank you, Rimas. Thank you so very much. And hopefully, Kuma stays well. And
Hopefully he does. We need him.
absolutely. And I look forward to meeting you when all these things get a little settled. I look forward to having a walk with him, keeping a distance. And I look forward to talking to you very soon. Thank you
I
so
look
very much.
forward to it too. Thank you so much
Thank
to you
you
and the
so much,
community.
everyone. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye.